what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on internet radio. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to another adventure here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Ubelis. It seems I may be flying solo today on my own. My guest co-host should have been former Congressman Ted Yoho, just waiting for him to call in. Curtis could not be with us, Curtis C.S. Bennett. He is involved with the election polling training or some sort, and good for him, volunteering to make sure our elections have integrity. We have a lot to talk about, a lot going on. I want to welcome everyone that is here listening to us, especially our friends out there in the chat room, be it on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitch, LinkedIn. Welcome aboard. And unfortunately, Curtis is not with me today, so I may be flying solo. So if I sound a little kooky, nutso, or whatever, it's because I am. There's a lot to talk about. We've got two great guests. Barbara, I'm probably going to mispronounce her name, and she'll correct me. Bonarrigo. She's from Ormond Beach, Florida. And she's running in a local election for city commissioner in Ormond Beach, Zone 3. She's got a primary coming up in August. We'll be talking to her about her issues and why are local elections just as important as national elections. These are things I've been fighting with in my own local community, and we're going to bring that out and explain why even local politics are important. And then we have Bill Young. He's running for Congress, and he's challenging Nancy Mace. And this is a three-way primary we have going on right now. Early voting started earlier this week on Tuesday, and it is going through to Friday. And then on the following Tuesday, the 11th, is our primary for the Democratic Party and for the Republican Party. So we've got three people running for Congressional District 1, which Nancy Mace currently has. And on a side note, now those that listen to the show know that I still run a Tea Party. Yes, Tea Party is still active 15 years later. And I had Catherine Templeton on. We invited her on the show today, and she was not able to make it. We've had Catherine Templeton and Bill Young appear in a forum, not a complete debate. They answered the same questions, I could say, but it was in a forum style. We invited Nancy Mace, and she did not show up. If you wanted to watch that, it's up on the Beaufort Tea Party Facebook page. I put an empty chair in the middle. I'm sure the Mace campaign's not too happy with me for that, but you know what? You got to remember that we are the ones voting for you. And she was invited to attend several functions at the county GOP, and she did not show up. So it seems to be a bit of a habit where she's letting people down that she's supposed to be representing. So if anyone from the Mace campaign is out there listening, this is how we feel in this county. And we're a large portion of CD1. And if you piss off the largest representatives of the northern area of this county, I'm not expecting a great turnout for her. It may be a possible runoff between Templeton and Mace. But Bill Young could be the deciding factor in pulling votes away from both Templeton and Mace. Who knows? It could even be a three-way runoff. We won't know until Tuesday night. But that's what's going on over here. Now, in the interim, there have been after Trump's guilty verdict, within the first 24 hours, small donations came in. And my mom, who's going to be 92 next month, made a donation. It could be $5, $10, $20, but these small donations, as large as $50, are considered small donations, raised over $34 million in 24 hours. And there was a fundraiser in the bluest district possible in the country, I got the hiccups, San Francisco. And San Francisco last night, in that one fundraiser, where the plates went upwards to $500,000 for a couple. They raised $12 million last night alone in one fundraiser in San Francisco. This is saying something for the Trump movement across the nation. People are seeing that this lawfare, they're going after Trump, and if they go after him, they're going to go after you. As a matter of fact, there's some webpage out there, I believe it's called Truth Finder. I ran my own name through there just to see what was going to come up, and I found out that I'm on a watch list. I mean, I'm a small town person. I'm retired. I do the podcast. I'm not an activist. I wasn't up in D.C. on January 6th, and yet I end up somehow or other on a watch list, a government watch list. So, folks, they are coming after you and me. And, that does disturb me. If I need to get on a flight, am I going to be denied boarding a plane now? It's a good question. It's a good question. We need to know what is out there about us. So, folks, Steve Bannon has been ordered to appear before the jail on July 1st. Peter Navarro is serving a 4-month sentence while he has an appeal out there. And what happens if his conviction is overturned? He would have spent 4 months in jail for nothing, for being an associate of Donald Trump. And here we have the same thing with Steve Bannon. And it was contempt of Congress for failing to appear before Congress to testify. And yet Merrick Garland is blatantly denying Congress. And is anyone sending him to jail? Shall we mention Rahm Emanuel, who was ordered to appear before Congress and gave him the middle finger? Is he doing any time in jail? And this is lawfare coming on against us, folks. So we have a lot to talk about. We got 2 great guests coming in. And on another note, yesterday was the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And before we do our dedication to our fallen hero, this is a dedication that appeared up on YouTube. And let me play this, because we cannot forget the men that went before us on D-Day and gave the world freedom.
My fellow Americans, in this poignant hour, I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces, but we shall return again and again. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom, as we rise to each new day, and again when each day is spent, let words of prayer be on our lips. Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in Thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our united crusade that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
The South Mississippi community is remembering fallen Deputy Jeremy Malone. He was killed last night in the line of duty during a traffic stop in George County at the age of 44. He is survived by his wife and 3 daughters. You see the picture of them right there. Since 2009, he worked with the George County Sheriff's Office in several full-time and part-time roles. He also worked at Bollinger Shipyards in Pascagoula. Earlier today, a massive procession leading the body of Deputy Malone to the crime lab in Biloxi before escorting his body back home to George County. Amber Spradley shares the community reaction tonight.
Deputy Jeremy Malone came back to George County less than 24 hours after being killed in the line of duty. Outside Moment's funeral home in Lucedale, fellow law enforcement officers from all over followed right behind him, backed by a sea of sirens.
We couldn't make it through this without our community.
George County Sheriff's investigator Doug Adams describes Deputy Malone as a devoted team member, husband, and a father of 3.
Deputy Malone was an outstanding deputy, would do anything you asked him to do. He was dedicated to law enforcement and was willing to come out and work just about any time you asked him to come work. Couldn't ask for a better deputy.
Authorities are not releasing many details as the investigation continues.
The department is doing the best that they can do under the circumstances. This has been an extremely tragic event. This is the second tragic event we've had in the past week with our EMS worker being killed also.
Eyewitness Billy Mitchell sharing off camera he jumped in his own truck after shots fired before his eyes outside of a Dollar General store. You might think to run, but he chases after the gunman, he says, following the vehicle for miles until law enforcement catches up to end it. The store manager sharing off camera as well. She was checking out a customer when she heard 3 gunshots. She stepped out the door to see the deputy, her regular customer, down. She says she immediately closed the doors, telling everyone to stay inside.
We cannot thank the people of George County, the surrounding law enforcement agencies, the community, for the outpouring of help and assistance that they've given us in the last 24 hours. It's totally amazing.
Deputy Malone marks the 5th law enforcement officer in the country shot and killed in the line of duty in 1 week. In Lucedale, Amber Spradley, WLOX News Now.
Deputy Malone is leaving a legacy in the hearts of many communities in Mississippi. Malone served a great deal of his life in law enforcement, serving counties across the state. Tonight, his friends and former colleagues share their memories of who he was. Stephanie Poole has the story.
Deputy Jeremy Malone served many roles throughout his life: husband, father, son, and deputy. Former Perry County Sheriff Mitch Nobles reflects when the two worked alongside each other many years ago.
And him and I both were dispatchers, but we was wanting to be involved so much, so I knew then, Jeremy had intentions of being in law enforcement.
The Perry County native touched many lives, his legacy impacting Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter.
I have a special connection to Jeremy. We were academy roommates. We attended the academy together 22 years ago in Harrison County. So this hits home. This is tragic. This is sad. If I can describe him, he was friendly. He was dedicated to the profession of law enforcement. He was fun-loving, joking. and he was always someone that you could talk to.
Another colleague, former George County Sheriff Keith Havard, he remembers Malone for his acts of service year after year.
He was involved in a fundraiser for us. We had the Blue Line toy drive at the sheriff's office, and they sponsored a toy drive and fundraiser to help that program out this past year.
As far as in the community, he was good to the community, good to the people around here.
Officers across the state of Mississippi continue to lift up Malone's family and friends. Stephanie Poole, WLOX News Now.
We're also learning more tonight about the man authorities say killed Deputy Malone. 43-year-old Ricky Powell was shot and killed last night following a pursuit that ended in Perry County. Powell was from Purvis. Investigators have not yet said why Deputy Malone had pulled Powell over, but we do know Powell was driving a silver Ford Expedition with no tag. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation spent today processing the crime scenes in George County and Perry County, gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. All of that information will go to the Attorney General's office.
All right, that video was courtesy of WLOX in Mississippi. Today's show is dedicated to Deputy Sheriff Jeremy Malone of the Georgia County Sheriff's Office in Mississippi, whose end of watch was Thursday, January 4th of this year. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there that serve as first responders, be they law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency services. We also dedicate this show to the brave men and women that serve this nation from its birth through today into our hopeful future. And we dedicate to them with this song from Tiffany, Soul of a Nation. May God bless each and every one.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, sure when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace.
All right. And we're back. And I apologize if you're listening to the beginning of the show. I forgot to unmute my microphone here. My bad. So those that are listening in may not know what's going on today. Your hostess with the least mostest, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Ubelis host and producer here. Normally, I have C.S. Bennett with me, but he is out doing poll working, training of some sort down in Florida. And good for him for volunteering to make sure there's integrity in our elections in this election cycle. It's so important to get out involved. And if you have a chance to become a poll worker or a poll watcher, go out and do it. He's doing that. We have got two great guests today. I was supposed to have a guest co-host, and it seems that he is unable to either sign in or do it. It was supposed to have been former Congressman Ted Yoho. Ted was the one that AOC accused of calling her a couple of names on the steps of Congress, which were false. But Ted occasionally does fill in when CS cannot be here, and unfortunately, he's not here. So I am riding solo on today. We have our guest, Barbara Bonarrigo, should be signing in a few minutes at the top of the hour. She's running for Ormond Beach City Commission. And it's important that people do know and get involved in their local elections. It affects your everyday life, and sometimes you don't realize it. You're so busy with the national issues and what's up on the TV screen or on YouTube or Twitter or X or whatever it is out there. And you forget that sometimes these local things impact you. You get up to go to the grocery store and find yourself in a traffic congestion. Well, if you're not watching what your local commissioner, council, or whatever they want to call it is doing, they're the ones that control your local taxes and your traffic and everything else. So being involved locally is important. And we'll be talking to her about that and her run for the seat. Followed by, at the bottom of the hour, Bill Young. He is running for the congressional seat currently held by Nancy Mace here in South Carolina District 1. And that's the heart of the district that I am in. And we will be talking with him. We have Catherine Templeton, who's also challenging Nancy Mace. But unfortunately, Catherine could not make it onto the show today. So we had hoped to have her also, to have the two people challenging Nancy Mace. And at the start of the show, I was explaining, I'm just turning off the sound on my cell phone. I always forget to do that. Explaining that here in Congressional District 1, the county I live in, is a large part of that. And she seems to be snubbing us here in the Congressional District whenever we invite her to one of our meetings. Even the county GOP is unable to get her to show up. So there's two other people challenge her, and there's a possibility this may end up Tuesday primary in a runoff. And I'm hoping, because a message has to be sent that you can't ignore us. We're the ones that voted for you. We're the ones that paying the taxes, that are paying your salary. You are responsible to us. And so when we say we have an issue, we want you to come down and talk. Come down and talk. Anyway, Bill Young will be talking to us about his run for the seat against Nancy Mace. I want to welcome everyone that's over here watching, either if you're on X or Facebook or Twitch or LinkedIn, and see some good friends up making comments. God bless you guys for being here with us today. And like I said, I'm running a little solo here. So we're waiting for our first guest, Barbara Bonarrigo, to call in. But I came across this article. And for those that don't know, I do a second podcast with a young woman. Her name is Vicki Tompkins. Through Dan Perkins Media. And Dan Perkins is someone who's been a guest on our show, an author, an activist and all. He has now his own podcast too, and he produces the one that Vicki and I do called Moms Across America. And we record it on Wednesdays, then he puts it up on his media. I'm going to get Vicki to come on here. Let you know where I'm coming from. Vicki Tompkins happens to be the El Paso County GOP chair in Colorado. And that's the very county that they attempted to toss Trump off the ticket. So she was right smack in the idea that in that fight and putting Trump back on the ticket. So she's a great conservative, and I consider her a dear friend. And we were discussing this article that was up on Fox News, and it was an editorial by Hugh Hewitt. Hugh Hewitt wrote about the reasons why people were making small donations immediately after Trump's conviction in New York on those 34 counts of what crime. We have no idea what the crime was. It just simply because he made a bad entry in an accounting book, it's suddenly now a felony with possible up to 4 years in prison per count. That's 34 counts times 4. Think about it. No way. This would be something that would be not even a misdemeanor, but a fine, a slap on a wrist for poor bookkeeping or bad entry. But instead, they found him guilty of a felony for 34 counts, and yet we never knew what the underlying crime was. I mean, in closing arguments, they had the defense go first, and he's doing closing arguments against a charge that was never presented. So how can you do closing arguments if you don't even know what the actual underlying crime is? So this was a lose-lose situation in New York. And Hugh Hewitt pointed out 50 different reasons why this was complete hypocrisy. And the number one was Hillary's private server. Now, remember Hillary Clinton when she was running for president? She had a private server in a closet somewhere that had access to all sensitive material, but this was not a government server. This was a private server. It violated the rules and threatened the national security, and there was no prosecution for it. The other one is that Hillary lawyers deleted half of her emails. I'm sorry, isn't that destroying government records, official records? That's a felony in itself. Each count is a felony. So we have that. And then she used something called BleachBit to erase information on her cell phone. She had cell phones destroyed by a hammer, using hammers. I'm sorry, this is government property. I mean, these are chargeable felonies, and yet no one went after Hillary Clinton, but they're going after Trump, and they're going after anyone in Trump's circle. Peter Navarro is serving a 4-month prison sentence for contempt of Congress. Steve Bannon is being told to report to prison on July 1st for contempt of Congress. And yet you have Merrick Garland saying publicly he will violate Congress's call to appear. He will be in contempt of Congress. Will he serve 4 months? What about Rahm Emanuel, who did that, who gave Congress the middle finger? He then went on to be elected mayor of Chicago. No contempt of Congress, no 4 months prison time. But yet, if you're associated with Donald Trump, they're going to go after you tooth and nail. And It looks like I'm batting 0 today because now my first guest has not shown up yet. Hopefully she will rather soon. Let's not forget about the Steele dossier. Manufactured evidence. I'm sorry, that again is a felony. And yet no one has been prosecuted for the creation of the Steele dossier that caused a massive investigation over 6 years against Donald Trump. The dossier proved to be false evidence. You manufacture evidence, that is a crime. And yet nothing happens here. Oh, can we talk about Fusion GPS and Mark Elias, formerly of the Clinton law firm of Perkins Coie, and their 2016 campaign against Donald Trump, which then manufactured the Steele dossier. See, it's all one big, large circle. It's okay if you're on the left to do these things, but heaven forbid you're on the right and you do something just a little bit out of line by making an accounting entry saying that it's a legal expense. Well, you're paying an attorney within a check. The attorney's job is to handle your legal stuff. So yes, you mark it as a legal expense. That's not an incorrect entry. And yet they made it to be a crime. I mean, we can go on and on and on. How about, can we remember the meeting of President-elect Trump by then CIA Director Brennan, and then FBI Director Comey, and then DNI Director Clapper at the Trump Tower in January 2017, at the conclusion of which Comey briefed the president-elect on the most salacious part of the Steele dossier that Comey had just leaked out to Mother Jones. And yet Comey today, even today, says he has a vendetta against Donald Trump. I mean, if Donald Trump does get reelected, I hope he takes a broom and sweeps everyone out the closet before he comes into office. And my, hey, hello, stranger.
Hey, stranger, how are you?
Folks, we do have him a little late, but we will accept it. We do have former Congressman Ted Yoho with us. Good afternoon, Ted. Bring your head back in. We lose the top of your head. There we go. Oh, you got a nice halo with the fan. I like it.
That's right. How you been?
Oh man, I have been going crazier than a one-darn paper hanger right now.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
With everything that's going on in the news. But as you just signed in, our first guest, a little bit late, but that's okay. We'll accept it. She's from the state of Florida, and she's running for a commission in Ormond Beach, City Commission Zone 3. And I know I'm going to mispronounce your name. Let's bring her on. Barbara Bonarrigo. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Well, welcome aboard with former Congressman Ted Yoho, whose microphone has been muted. Let's unmute you, Ted.
I did that.
There we go.
I got some construction workers here, and I didn't want it to override, so I was going to turn it off until.
That's all right, because I've got them in my crawl space right now.
Okay, good.
So if the banging is not just on your side, it's on my side too.
All right.
All right, Barbara, I'm familiar with Ormond Beach, and I have to tell you, I did drive the Daytona Strip before they closed it to traffic.
Oh, good. I'm sure you had fun.
And I do have friends that do live in Ormond Beach, and I've always said politics start local, and they rise up. And Ted could attest to that. But if you don't get involved in what's local, you're going to find your everyday life being impacted. It's one thing for the federal government to tell you what type of toilet to buy and light bulb to buy. But when it comes to the infrastructure and the workings of the community you live in, being involved in local politics is imperative. And when my county council sees me coming, you hear, oh, and I've got YouTube videos to prove it. But one thing we have, and I still run a Tea Party, the number one issue we find is immigration. Now, you yourself are an immigrant. You did this the legal way. How is it impacting you down there in Florida?
I mean, I don't think it's really a big of a deal, especially in Ormond Beach. I don't see a problem with it. The only problem that I'm having is I don't understand why our administration lets all these illegal immigrants come, because I became American citizen because I wanted to vote. I wanted my voice to be heard, and I had to work very hard for it. And it made me very proud to be an American, even more so being here in this country. So that's the issue that I'm having with this whole immigration. I think we should make it well. It looks like it's being we have the legal laws to come in here, but it's not being followed, and it's kind of like a slap in the face for us immigrants that do it the right way.
Yeah, I know when E-Verify came out, everyone was using E-Verify, and now suddenly that's gone by the wayside. One thing I would ask, if I was living locally in Ormond Beach, which is a beautiful, beautiful area.
Oh, I absolutely for it.
Yeah, man. Now, you're also, as a business owner, you know how the government has to interact with you locally. Matter of fact, I got so ticked off at our local county council. What they do for us is that if you have any assets, be it a computer, a desk, shelving, inventory, they tax you a sales tax every year. I don't know how it works in Ormond Beach, but when they turned around and taxed our printing equipment at the full purchase price, when we had equipment that was 20 and 30 years old, I closed the doors.
Yeah.
So how would you make Ormond Beach more attractive for businesses?
Well, it's a good question. I think, it's really important that we put a lot of emphasis on the small businesses, because they're the backbone of our community, our country, our state. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because I'm on the Small Business Advisory Board of Florida, and our governor, Ron DeSantis, appointed me on that. So I'm already actively giving out those SBCDC's flyers to small businesses and help them in that way, because Florida has money. We have funds available, and it's sometimes a little hard for small businesses to get it. So I'm out there and helping small businesses with that information and contacts, so they might be able to, get a good start, or help with grants or funds. So I think that's really important, to help small businesses get started that way.
Now, Ted, I see you shaking your head. Now, having been a former congressman, how would you be able to, or can she reach out to you to say, help, I need this for the city? What can they do to interact together?
Yeah, I mean, Barbara, feel free to reach out. I'm not in an official capacity anymore, obviously, but I do know people at different levels of the government. Let me ask you this: what's your background and why are you running?
Okay, well, the background is that when in 2006 I became American citizen, I just felt really proud of being an American, and I just wanted to do more. I felt it was just an overwhelming feeling for me to feel like home when they said, welcome home. So it's like, what can I do? And I've always looked up to veterans or police or firefighters, and I've always thought how brave they are. And so I was like, what can I do to do more for this country? So I started as a poll worker, but then I didn't know how to really get into politics. And my daughter, Christina Bonarrigo, she was the first all-female president and vice president of University of Florida. And she inspired me, actually. And she kind of, helped me a little bit the way. And then I saw I guess God brought me that way at the, it's called LPGA, a restaurant by us here in Daytona. And it said Republican Women's Meeting. And I was like, oh, great. I'm going to go there. I'm going to join them. And I became president a year later.
Sounds like you're passionate about what you do. So you're running for the county commission seat?
No, for the city commissioner, city commissioner zone 3, and currently a lady that is in that seat, she's leaving that seat open because she's running for mayor. So I thought, you know what, that's a great way to get in, because I'm already on 3 Ormond Beach boards and I know the inner workings of it. So I thought this would be a natural progression for me, to go further and do more together.
Where did you immigrate from?
I came originally from Germany in 1989. My husband and I, we married the same year when we met. And so I just never thought of becoming American. I was like, oh, I can just live here. I had a green card. I did all my papers and everything. But everybody got to vote but me.
Yeah.
So
well, I tell you what, it's important. And I commend you, number one, for standing up, willing to do something, willing to put your face into the blades of the fan that are going around, because they're going to attack you. They'll find reasons to come after you. They'll make up reasons. But if you know why you're running and you're passionate about why you're running, and coming from a country like Germany, which is a great country, but to come to America, become a citizen, that tells me you've got something inside you that you really believe in this experiment we call the constitutional republic that's given us liberty and freedom, and it's created the American dream for so many people. And it sounds like you and your husband and your daughter are on that route. And as Annie said, politics really starts locally, and we need to have strong voices at the local level, at the city, county, and then it goes to the state level to fend off overbearing federal government. And a lot of people equate with what's going on right now in the United States of America, what happened pre-World War II in the Weimar Republic, when people just became complacent in Germany and they elected Adolf Hitler, and we know what happened after that. And if we don't pay attention at the local level as individuals and take responsibility and hold government accountable, which is always a favorite buzzword in politics, we're going to go in and be transparent and hold government accountable, yet government is never held accountable. But it's going to take somebody like you and talk shows like Annie's that will call these people out. And, I just commend you for doing that, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. That's really kind words, and they mean a lot to me. And it helps actually a lot by, as you probably know, when you run for office, you have a lot of negative things that around you, but you also have a lot of positives. So it does help to get that acknowledgement.
Well, be prepared too. When you win, you're going to find out you have a lot of new friends that you didn't think you were your friends while you were running. But as soon as you win, these people have been with you all along.
I know, it's amazing. I'm already prepared for that one. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I live in a small town, not really a small town, but it's a charming town. It's got its own charm, southern, and Ormond Beach is similar to that, both coastal towns. How do you balance now the input of growth with trying to maintain that charm? Because this is one of the things I'm battling my county council. I drive around and I see these apartments and condos going up, and I'm like, wait a minute. Where how many people? I'm not talking about just maybe a couple of hundred. I'm talking about in the thousands. So how do you maintain accepting newcomers and maintaining the small town charm?
That's a great question. And that's actually something that I'm really passionate about, is because we are seeing all this building going on here in Ormond Beach. And I'm saying, so, everything is kind of already built by Granada Boulevard, which is like the main street here. And we have only a little bit left up north. And I'm saying, we need to beautify our city. And by that, I mean recreation, parks, museums, arts, make it that more of that neighborhoodly feeling, make sure that it has safe streets. All the crosswalks are painted. That's something I got accomplished. It was on the list to do for the city for over a year, and a neighbor was calling me, and I got it done by contacting the city and Public Works, and they got it done within a week. Another thing that I'm really passionate about is, and that's what I mean by beautification, is when I play tennis. And I saw that the tennis courts, it's by the Casements. I'm not sure if you know where it is. Across the bridge from Granada, there is a Rockefeller actually built it. I don't hold me on the date exactly, but I believe like over 100 years ago. And he made it an all men's club for tennis. And the city owns it, and they had it rented out. And somebody told me that the owner didn't want it anymore. So I contacted, not the owner, the person that was leasing it. And they said, yeah, no, the city is really not doing anything with it. So we're not renting it. So I was worried about it being sold. There was already years ago talks about condos being built there or something like that. So I said, we need to keep some of these historical sites. I mean, I want all of them to be held. And so I'm on the leisure service board, and I called the chair and I said, can we ask for eco funds? He says, perfect, let's put it on the agenda. So I round everybody up that was interested in recreation, parks, tennis, and we had over 20 people coming, and they were so impressed, the board, because, and then they said, well, how about not just a building, because I asked for a tennis building, how about showers and bathrooms? And I said, yeah, how about a pickleball field, because we have so much room in the back. And they said, yes. So and then new lights, and it got passed 8-0. So what is really important, why I'm saying this whole story, is the city board actually has a lot to say. And when you see something, you have to say something and then do something together. And that's the kind of commissioner I'm going to be when I'm getting elected. And it's so important that we have these people that speak up on those boards and that are actually putting something on the agenda and get it passed, and then stay on it and really make sure you work for the people, for the city, for our communities, our home.
What you just mentioned and what you just did is something that's very rare in politics, and it's called leadership, having a vision, and then the leadership to carry it through, because that building has been sitting there for how long, and somebody else could have come along and done this, but nobody else saw that. And it does fulfill a community need. My wife plays pickleball 3 to 4 times a week, and we're in a small town of 700, and it's she's got to wait to play. And so it's just that idea of what you wanted to do, the vision of where you wanted to go, and then having the leadership to lead people to that. And you must have done a good job, because you got an 8-0 vote.
Yeah, it was amazing. And that's when my light bulb went off, and I said, perfect. That's the way to do it. You got to bring people together, and then, because you can't talk to your board before it, because it's a, Sunshine State law, so you can't really talk to each other. So I was like, that's how you get it done. So now when I become city commissioner, guess what's going to be on my priority? Those tennis courts and pickleball, and beautify it and make it better. Have Museum Row on that road, on the beach side, and start with that hub and then continue all the way.
Well, and you'll be in charge of growth, and you can have an influence on the type of growth you want. I live in Putnam County, and the city of Plaque is the big city here. And we're blessed to be right on the St. Johns River. And we have the Ocala National Forest. We've got a lot of collection of springs. There's boating, there's fishing, crabbing, sightseeing. And they want growth, and they have a beautiful old 1800s downtown area with wide streets, but it's pretty desolate. And when I was in Congress, our goal was we formed a program called Project Putnam. And that was back 7 years ago. And the growth that we're seeing now and I get credited for it by the people here. They're saying it was your vision and the things that you implemented that are causing these things to happen now. They don't happen overnight. But again, once you see what you want to do and you get the support behind you, you can kind of control the type of growth of what you want. So you don't get developers deciding the kind of growth you want. You get the people deciding the kind of growth.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the kind of politician I'm going to be, and I am, or a person that I am, because again, we all want to live a good life, a good quality of life. So we all need to come together. And then not only that, but I feel, well, I know that, when I get elected, this is something that is very important to me to know. I'm working for the people, and I can never, ever forget that, because what I want is okay, great, but I have to know what they want. And they showed me what they wanted by coming to that board meeting, and then it was very easy.
I had a old sage tell me this, that politicians worry about their next elections. Statesmen worry about their next generations. So work hard to be a statesman, stateswoman, not a politician. We have too many politicians in politics.
That's a good memory. I will remember that. Yes,
You can
absolutely.
quote me the first time you use it, and after that you can own it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna compare what I'm going through here in my county. There's a problem with accountability. We have gone through a couple of supervisors, and there has been money that has been misappropriated, and there's ethic charges. As a councilwoman, would you be putting your thumb on the checkbook and saying, "Wait a minute, let's start accounting for everything. Let's audit"?
Oh, I already have been doing that.
Oh,
I've been meeting with the city manager. We went over the budget, and I asked questions. There will be more. It's just kind of an oversight of it, but absolutely, because the budgeting is very important. And as a business owner, if the budget, if you don't meet it, if you don't stay on it, you can get into trouble very quickly.
Exactly.
But to me, it looked pretty clean. I mean, I have a degree in business administration. So, and I've been, doing our books for 35 years. We own a manufacturing company. Actually, we're making parts for the military. So I know about government contracts, and we deal. Sorry about my birds. They're being really loud.
Oh, they're cheering you on. They're cheering you on. They go girl.
They're too funny, these two. But yeah, so
I can lend you one of my 6 cats.
Oh, they're crazy. The other one of them, he just jumps down on the ground, and it's just. So.
No, I have more questions, because one of the things that they're doing in my county, they're trying to put on the ballot, and they will, a new sales tax. And when I moved here, I left New York, sales tax was 8%. I moved here, it was 4%. Right now, it's at 7%. One of the sales taxes fell off. So now they want to put a new sales tax in. I'm sorry, 2 sales tax fell off. So we're at 7 going down to 6%. So they decided that they wanted to do all these projects, road projects. And in it, they had a repeat of the very projects we approved back in 2018 that they didn't do. As a matter of fact, I went driving around just in my county, and I found 2 out of 24. And then I turned around, and my new husband, I turned around and says, "This is one of the projects." And I drove him around. It was a huge, expensive U-turn. You went down one street, came around, came back out on the other street, back to the main highway. There's no businesses there except for a Taco Bell on the corner, and on the other end is a Walmart. It's a huge U-turn to nowhere that costs us multi-million-dollars. They're putting those projects back in the new sales tax to us to pay for them a second time. So when your council decides or commission decides to put a sales tax forward, would you be looking for little things they slip in like that to hoodwink the resident?
Well, the biggest question is always why. Like I said, I come from Germany originally. We had in the beginning, they said when they implemented a sales tax, they said it's only going to be 3%, and it's only to cover certain projects. And our sales tax is at 20% now.
Oh.
So
you got the value added
you're kind of lucky in that way. But to me, I don't like it because it's hidden. There's always these hidden pet projects for someone or there are others. And I don't like it. And I'm almost 99% because I always like to keep that 1% because I still want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can't afford it, look, at home, when I can't afford something, I just don't buy it.
Right.
I save the money and then I can buy it.
That's a novel idea and a foreign idea when it comes to government.
Right.
There was a former radio host who had his own show, Gene Shepard. You probably remember, Ted, going back to that generation. And Gene Shepard always said, "In God we trust, all others pay cash." But if we can get our government to do that, but not, they're using us as a credit card. And I'm going after the county council for the sales tax. I did it to once before. I actually, on my own dime, took out half-page ads in all the local newspapers. I arranged for signs and waving on the main intersections in the northern end of the county, the southern end of the county, on my own dime. I had all these things printed up and I sent them out. And I killed it. We killed it at 70% voted no.
Good.
So I'm gearing up for this new one. So when I listen to small government, these are the things that I've been fighting in my county. So when you're saying you're running locally, I said, God, someone gets it. Local politics are important.
Has the greatest impact on our lives. Not just sales tax, but it's about taxes. It's about the infrastructure. It's about beautification. It's about budgeting. And we still have that home rule. I kind of feel like they're kind of taking that a little bit away from us from the legislative side because, for instance, the impact fee, we don't really have the control over it anymore. And I kind of don't like that. I like that every state or every city should have their own, say in that, because someone from Tallahassee doesn't know how Ormond Beach works.
Right.
Exactly
So
right.
I believe, when you have your money, you should be able to use it then also.
Yes, absolutely.
You've got these faceless bureaucrats that never get elected that are spending the money that you should be in charge of for your citizens in your area. And that's one of those things you were talking about, holding government accountable. When I went to Washington, we were at $13.5 trillion in debt. And I went up there to get us under control. And, I didn't vote to raise the debt ceiling. And I got attacked from economists, University of Florida economists all over the country saying I was a moron, didn't know anything about economics. They called me stupid. And that was in 2013. Here we are in 2024, and we're at $34 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
And our interest is more than we're spending on our military. And so it bodes the question, who's the ignorant one? The one that tried to fix it, or the one that just, we're going to let it go? That's where accountability, and you're going to have to make some strong, unpopular decisions. And this is going to go sometimes against the voters too. It's, because it may be a project that may be 5-10 years out from now that you've got to kind of project out. And if you're not willing to make that commitment, it just the can gets kicked down the road. And so that'll have to be dealt with 10 years from now, maybe, and the price will be 10 times as much.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to put on a pause here for a minute, Annie.
That's okay. That's all right, Ted. No worries. Ted will be back in a little bit. He's still up here, but that's okay. As I was talking about we were talking about the traffic. You come along the I-95 corridor, don't you?
Yes.
Oh God, do I hate that road we're crossing over. So does your city then have some influence on what is done with the I-95?
Well, not so much with I-95, but we have an entrance coming, the Ormond Beach where the Harley Davidson is, that is being studied, and we're getting funds for $350 million to redo this whole intersection there because it's very unsafe and very old. It's about 60 years old. So the city has some say on that one, yes.
Oh, great. Now, I forgot to put my banner up for you because I had a banner for you. If people want to know more about you and get to learn about you, and even if they want to make a donation to your campaign, your website is yourlastname.org, correct?
Yes, it's
All right.
bonarrigo.org, and they can donate. They can scroll all the way down and donate to our campaign that way. Read everything about our campaign, our message. And I just, think it's really important that we all work together and we get this done and move on and beautify our beautiful city, our home.
Oh, people can find you bonarrigo.com. That's BONARRIGO.org. Well, Barbara, it has been a pleasure and good luck on your campaign. And you got to let me know how it ends.
Oh, I will definitely. I will keep your contact and I will let you know.
I just got one other question because my family also comes from Germany, from the Bavaria area. Where are you from?
So I'm from, it's called Kaiserslautern. It is southwest. It's close to the French border. We don't make beer. We make wine in our area. So it's a very beautiful wine region over there. We have a big barrel, a wine barrel that you can actually eat in. It's a restaurant, a 2-story restaurant in Bad Dürkheim. And so it's a beautiful area. In September is the most beautiful time to go there. So that's where I'm from. And I came here when I was 25. So
well, my father was also stationed post-World War II, and he was the one that was responsible for rebuilding the communication systems after the war when they were torn down. He was just a sergeant, but he was telling the officers how to rebuild all the stuff. So, yes. So I've got ties still in Germany. Well, good luck. And God bless.
So much, and God bless you too. Have a good day.
You too. All right. And Ted, we're back. Let me get this banner out. Okay. Oh, wow. Very interesting young woman. And she has a lot to say, and I hope she wins. I really do hope she wins.
It'll be interesting to keep tabs on her and do a follow-up after a year or two in office.
Right. Let me get my stuff out of the way here so I know what I'm going on to next. We're waiting for my next guest, Bill Young, to log in, and his campaign aide said he was going to do that. So hopefully she will get him on there real soon. Just trying to see if I can. All right. I'm just going to trust that they're going to call. Because last night they said, yes, they'll be here. But, one of the things that we were talking about, because I don't know if you heard that on Wednesdays, I do another podcast called Moms Across America through Dan Perkins Media. And we were talking about the fundraising that has been going on with Trump post conviction verdict. And last night, in the bluest city possible, he raised $12 million in a single night fundraiser in San Francisco.
Are you serious? Out of San Francisco?
$12 million at a single fundraiser in a matter of hours. Now I'm hearing the figures that he's raised, most of it through small donations, is somewhere over 200 million as of today.
Those are the best kind. I mean, that's your grassroots people that give those in. We used to get donations of $1. And you could tell it was an elderly person, the way the note was written. They said, we wish we could give you more. To me, those meant more than any, I mean, the max donors are always nice, but those other people, they're giving what they can. And it was just special. And I wrote everybody a hand thank you note. And if people are doing that for Trump, I heard, I was listening to Foreign Affairs the other day, and Fareed Zakaria. He was talking about the Tea Party, how it was this discombobulated organization that came out that was upset because the status quo was changing. And I'm like, this guy's way off base. The Tea Party movement was not a nationalized organization.
No, never.
It was something that people were mad at the government for not doing those things that they're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to have border security. You're supposed to have national security. we're supposed to have fiscal conservative responsibility. And in fact, the Republican Party believes in all that, fiscal responsibility, secure borders, and the list goes on. And I've been at REC meetings, have been invited back. And I'll say, you guys believe in this. This is what we believe in. Let me ask you, the party that's in the Republicans, are they doing that? And of course they're not. And so we need to look beyond party. And, so this Fareed Zakawi was, criticizing the Tea Party, but he was missing why the Tea Party was there. And then people will blame Trump for fulminating all this stuff post the can I say that word, election? The stolen election. I won't use the F word. The last election where there's a lot of questions still. And they want to demonize him as causing all this mayhem and chaos. He is but a symptom of the underlying problem that started with the Tea Party movement. That movement hasn't gone away. And so these small donations that are coming in, raising record numbers, and that just blows me away, $12 million in San Francisco. That tells you how angry people are, whether it's the border, whether it's the fiscal irresponsibility, our weakened foreign policy, the COVID lockdowns, Biden wanting to get into the WHO and turn over our health outcomes in this country to the WHO and follow the mandates from the WHO that's controlled by China. We're just so far off base in this country. And of course, let's not forget the weaponization of the Justice Department and many of the other federal agencies.
See, that's something that we got into because my co-host, it happens to be Vicki Tompkins, who is the GOP chair in El Paso County, Colorado, the home of where they tried to pull Trump off the ticket. And she was right smack in the heart of that fight. God bless her. So we do Moms Across America, and this is what we were talking about. But I said the attack on us started long before Trump. Because if you go back, and I think you were still in Congress at the time, before the House Ways and Means Committee, 3 members from separate Tea Parties, Joe Dugan, South Carolina Tea Party Coalition, dear friend of mine, Diane Hardy, she was the Columbia Tea Party here in South Carolina, and I think the third one was Jerry McDaniels, who's Myrtle Beach Tea Party. We're talking specifically about when they were attempting to file for their 501c3s, corporations, they were being denied. Matter of fact, not one conservative group, whether it was 9/12 or America First or Tea Party, was being allowed to file for a 501c3. But liberal groups were able to get them. And do you remember that testimony?
I remember that well, and I'm glad you brought that up because
I think they were friends of mine.
That's amazing. I mean, you got firsthand experiences, but yet when you look at that, you have a weaponized Justice Department. Then after that, when the Republicans are in control, they do the hearings, they do all the testimonies, the depositions, and then the Congress lasts for 2 years. What happened to that? What was the outcome? And I am so against these hearings that they do over and over again because nothing comes out of that. Mike Pompeo and Jim Jordan did the Benghazi hearings when that happened. They came out with some great information, but nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
To me, if you're going to do the hearing, follow through and do something with it. And, it's just everything they went through with impeaching Mayorkas. Why in the heck he did not get impeached in the House is beyond me. I mean, just on the fact that the border is wide open, it's a travesty to this country, and that falls on him because he's the guy in charge of that.
Well, they have Peter Navarro serving 4 months in prison for contempt of Congress. Steve Bannon has been ordered to go to jail on July 1st for contempt of Congress. Merrick Garland openly said he will be in contempt of Congress. Will he be imprisoned? I think not. Rahm Emanuel openly gave Congress the middle finger. Did he see a day in jail? No, he got elected mayor of Chicago. And we can go on and on and on in instances of contempt of Congress on both sides. But the only time they get jailed is when they're associated with Trump.
Or a Republican, yeah. You look at, we tried to Morgan Griffith out of Virginia and we were going to call to have Eric Holder arrested because he was in contempt of Congress. And so there was a State of the Union, and we were talking, if he comes on the House floor, we're going to have him arrested. And I was bringing this up in a meeting, and Mick Mulvaney, actually it was Trey Gowdy, and Mick was there too. They says, forget it. Congress can't arrest anybody. And he goes, what good would that do? And I says, Trey, we can't arrest anybody because we don't have arresting authority. However, we can have the Capitol Hill police arrest him, correct? He goes, yeah, but how long do you think he'd be in prison? I said, I don't care if he's in there 5 minutes. You have sent a signal to the other branches that we're not going to tolerate this. Had we been able to pull that off and do that, what signal would that have sent to the next ones, these people that are, putting their middle finger out to the congressional oversight? And until Congress starts using the authority they have, they're just going to get snowballed and run over, and they become very ineffectual. They've lost their clout. Who's that? Dennis Rodman says, I lost my funky Comedina, and that's when he started doing bad basketball. Congress has lost their funky Comedina.
It's become the law for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden, is he going to see a day in jail? I think not.
They'll drag it out till after the election, and then it'll just go away.
Just go away.
A new group will be in there.
And yet the screaming, Trump's a felon, Trump's a felon. You're going to elect a felon for committing what was the actual crime? Putting down in your log, your ledger, that you paid a check to an attorney, a fee to an attorney. You gave a check to an attorney and you're paying him for services. That's an attorney's fee. So I don't see how 34 counts of putting that in there makes it a felony, because they never once ever said what the actual crime was.
As far as I know, it was consensual sex, and he was just trying to bury the story. Then you go to Bill Clinton, who was raping women supposedly, but yet he pays out, I forget how much money in damages to, what was her name, Paula Jones, $800,000. Nothing gets said about that. And again, it's I think Al Gore talked about two Americas, and he wanted to put wealthy against poor, white against black. This is the two Americas are the Democrats, the communists today, versus the rest of us. And we are, unfortunately, it's us against them now.
It is.
I'm reading a very good book right now by Noah Feldman. It's called Partisan Patriot President, about James Madison. And the arguments they had back then are the very same arguments we're having right now. And it's funny interesting how history repeats itself. Great book. That's
Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. But we do have our other we do have our other guest in a little late. Shame on you. Never say a former Marine, retired Marine, running for congressional seat, which Nancy Mace holds in Congressional District 1. It's a three-way race here, and the early voting is going on through today, and the primary is this coming Tuesday. So it's Mace, Catherine Templeton, and Bill Young. And Bill, you're the upstart.
Welcome to the show, Bill.
And this is former Congressman Ted Yoho.
Oh, nice to meet you, Ted, and thanks for having me on, Ed. Apologize for being a little late. We've been out campaigning out in Bluffton. It's Beaufort County, as you know, is going to be a battleground, so we've been out here shaking hands and introducing myself to people, getting my name out.
Shaking hands, eating barbecue.
That's right.
And Bill has been at my Tea Party meetings now twice. And we had a forum at our last meeting. It was Catherine Templeton, Bill Young, and we invited Nancy Mace. We even tried accommodating her any which way we could, but it was just Catherine and Bill and an empty seat. I couldn't resist the empty seat.
Those are always effective.
Now, I had a lot of questions for you, and we're down to our last 15 minutes. But you're tough on border security as a former Marine. You're also very supportive of Veterans Affairs, and you actively work with helping homeless veterans and those that need assistance. Biden just passed this executive order. Now, he's claiming Congress, you can't do anything, can you?
Yes, absolutely,
Nope.
they can. But unfortunately, President Biden has been trying to overload the immigration justice system with executive action and really taking over that. But Congress absolutely has the ability to control foreign policy, which includes our border. We've got to be really controlling the narrative when it comes to that. And when we have bills come to the House through the Senate or vice versa, and we don't agree with things, we need to have a amendment process and, let it come to the House, have amendments, because in previous bills, et cetera, where they, put forth a ceiling of 3,000 to 5,000 a day, that's not acceptable. And taking asylum away from our immigration judges, that's not acceptable as well. Those are the types of things that should be non-starters, non-negotiable, and really put forth in an amendment process.
Yeah. Now,
Well,
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
1,000%. But what are you going to do to make that happen in the process?
Yeah, well,
up there?
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And that's, you really got to make big deals about that. You got to be able to have a backbone and talk about those things. You got to speak with the Speaker of the House and be like, listen, we need to bring this to the House. We need to talk about this. We need to have an amendment process and not just play political games with our border. And that's really what it's come down to is we're seeing political games trying to hold it off until we get the next president. And I support President Trump. I think President Trump is going to do a lot of great things. But we also need to get things done right now to protect our nation. And Congress right now is not trying to get those things done. And they're allowing President Biden to get these accomplishments so that Congress won't do anything. And he knows that.
I agree with you. And all they do is they talk about it. They give the rhetoric. What you'll find out is there's an aversion up there for making a decision. There's an aversion up there for taking a stand. There's an aversion for action. When you go to do action, people are going to run from you because all of a sudden now they've stated where they're going to do, but more importantly, they have put their feet forward, and it's like volunteering. We've all heard the jokes about that. I need to volunteer in the Army or in the Marines, and everybody steps back and you're the lone one standing there. That's the way it is up there. We've tried so many times. We're going to do this. Everybody's with you, but when you go to do it, you can't find these people that are talking tough and they're on TV saying this. Congress has the authority to close that border down if they wanted to. And keep in mind, this is not something under Biden. This is something that's an extension from Obama's years and the Marxist Democrats prior to that. And I call it the Obamanization of America. His goal was to fundamentally transform America, as he stated 5 days before his first inauguration. He's doing it. Biden is the extension. So we can't just look at Biden. We have to look at what they were trying to do. And that's the fundamental change of America. You look at where we are today from when Obama came in there, how much more fundamental change do you want? How many more wokeism, DEIs, ESG scores, open borders? I mean, it's a joke. Our borders we don't even have a border. It's just a porous mess. And as you brought up that bill, this conservative bill that James Langford brought up, the bipartisan bill in the Senate, 6 months to a year ago, how they said this got this under control, as you astutely pointed out, it allowed 5,000 illegals to come in daily. If you multiply that by 365 days, I think it comes out to 1.8 million people. That was going to be acceptable before the administration did everything. And it's a joke. Close the damn border down, period.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about closing the border down as well, we got to talk about the Darien Gap as well, which is the Colombia-Panama border, where over 500,000 people crossed this last year, and they're all heading to America. And it's 113,000 of those are kids, which are flooding our school systems. And then also into the individuals, when we talk about military-age males from China, Georgia, and Middle Eastern countries, they're all coming through South America and heading up through Central America into United States. And we've really got to help Panama, because the new Panama president wants to shut that border down. And so we've got to work with them to coordinate to get Colombia to do that. And if Colombia doesn't, we need to tariff them.
We can't talk
Go ahead.
about
I'm sorry,
the southern
Ted.
border without talking. We can't talk about the southern border without talking about the northern border, because it's just as porous. And again, it's a travesty. I think it's actually treasonous of what this administration is doing. But Congress is complicit because they are not holding this administration accountable. They need to cut the purse strings. Just cut the money off wherever they can on every program that is in a national security program that the president has authority over. They can cut off so much if they wanted to. And, I just don't see them to do it. And you said, well, you got to get with the speaker. Unfortunately, it was John Boehner when I was in there, and it was Paul Ryan, and then Kevin McCarthy was the minority leader, and he was a disaster. I hate this. I'm glad he's gone. I wish they would never have elected him. But if you can have the speaker that'll give you the lip service, oh yeah, we're going to do that, but they don't follow through. And you're going to have questions asked. Are you going to vote for a speaker, and will you honor, or will you be willing to give up the motion to vacate the chair? And you're going to have to make that decision. My recommendation is no. If they do their job, they shouldn't have to be worried about it. But if they don't do their job, you have no other recourse.
Wow.
But do it in the fashion that if we're going to do this, I want to know who I'm putting in there next.
Correct. And that was one of the big things that people are upset with. What Nancy Mace did in the last times. They had no plan. And it really hamstrung Congress for a long time in trying to figure that one out.
It sure did. And if they're going to do that, you better have a plan ready to go in on day one, and they didn't have that. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to, throw everybody out. It's like, you guys are in the fourth down or the fourth quarter. There's 4 seconds left. Just live through this, and let's plan on building a strong majority, and let's have a game plan going into that next Congress that you want to accomplish for 2 years. But more importantly, that'll extend 5-10 years down the road, that this Congress can follow and pass off to the next one, like a relay race.
Well, Bill, I can let you know that this show is later on tomorrow, will be carried on bigpatriotradio.com that covers a large area of Bluffton through my covert. So this broadcast will be right. So, hey, we're giving you a little campaign in your area.
Yeah, and it'll be complemented with, we've gotten some radio ads going off on 104.9 in the next 5 days. So, yeah, this will be great for name recognition. Thank you.
How's your race looking?
So I'm coming out of left field here. Name recognition. Go ahead, Em.
I was going to say the name recognition is the big point. Because to be honest with Bill, he is the third wheel, the third cog in the program. So he's the one that can pull votes from either Templeton or Mace. And maybe we see a 3-way runoff. I don't know. I mean, Mace has ticked off a lot of people as not showing up when we want them to be there, giving them this platform, the stage to get their message out. And she just ignores that. I think that's the big problem for her. But hey, I took my mom, she'll be 92 next month on July 4th. And I took her for early voting on Wednesday, and they came out, they brought the machine out to her. So she's voted, and she made her donation to Donald Trump. But Bill, people can find you and learn more about you and who you are at BillYoungForCongress.org. There's a banner running on this, so when people check it in the archives later, they can see and help you with your campaign. I mean, I wish you a lot of luck. There's a lot more to talk about. And one of the things I wanted to talk about real quick was you talk about voter integrity. And you asked about amending the National Voter Registration Act. How would you amend that?
Yeah, so when we talk about voter integrity, you got to have faith in our elections. And really, when I look at what can we do, I look at the Heritage Foundation, and I see a lot of suggestions on their website. And I saw one that I really thought should be able to get bipartisan support. I say should. But one of the things is really amending it to where if you don't vote in 2 federal election cycles, then you have to re-register. And that should help clean the ballots up organically, because a lot of times we have issues when it comes to dead people voting. People have moved and they happen to vote in 2 places. So that'll help. You haven't voted in 2 federal election cycles there. You're going to have to re-register. That'll clean that up, or they'll just take you off the ballot if you pass away. And then we also need to, when it comes to mail-in voting, just carte blanche mailing ballots to registered voters needs to end. We got to stop that. 20% of the country said in the last election, presidential election, that they voted in 2 different places because they got mail-in balloting. And so that needs to stop. I am not a fan of that. That's got to stop as well.
Well, I always said that the best way to make sure you have good elections and people elected, change the date that you file your IRS to the day before you vote. Once you write out that check, I'm sure you're going to be voting conservative from there on. How's that sound, Ted?
No, that's good. I actually think we ought to, the voting in this country has just gone crazy, with the absentee, the extended votes, the mail-in votes. We're the only developed country that does this anymore. All the other ones, France, England, they all got rid of that. And I think we should too. I think we should have voting on day, whatever we decide. You vote that day, count the ballots, and that's it. There's just, the longer you stretch it out, the more available it is for fraud.
So the first Monday of November will be the day you pay your taxes, and the first Tuesday of November is the day you vote. That's the legislation.
Provided you paid your tax.
Well, because I had a little bit of a mess up at the front of this, we're going to go a couple of minutes over because I'm going to go back and edit it on the others before I upload them to all the others like Spotify, iHeart, iTunes. It's going to be all over the place. I think I got about 30 different places the show goes out to. But you talked about economic prosperity here for the Low Country, where you're running for Congressional District number 1 is known as the Low Country. And we have a lot of tourism as well as fishing industry. They brought Boeing in also. But how would you look to bring more prosperity here into the Low Country?
Yeah, well, one of those things that we talk about is not just energy independence, but energy dominance. We got to get back to drilling. We also got to get back to liquid natural gas. Our Biden administration right now has really put a pause in stopping liquid natural gas. And that has made Middle Eastern countries very wealthy. So we need to get back to that. And what that'll do is that'll bring inflation down, because a lot of logistics and supply costs goes up when your energy cost is up. So we've got to look at bringing that down. And then when we talk about our fishing and shrimping industry here in the Low Country, I'm the one advocating for our shrimping industry. We've got a shrimping industry that goes from McClellansville all the way to the top of Charleston County, all the way down to Beaufort County and Port Royal. And so our shrimping industry is getting decimated because we're importing shrimp from Vietnam, India, and China, which is done at forced slave labor. It's pumped full of chemicals, which the FDA has deemed illegal. And unfortunately, our current incumbent, Nancy Mace, has been absent on this. She's actually proposed a bill, which is a DEI bomb, about a year ago or so, called the Seafood Act, which funds HBCUs and tribal universities to study what's an acceptable amount of antibiotics in our coastal waters and our seafood. She didn't actually get behind our local wild-caught shrimpers until my town hall on April 10th and April 11th that was in Charleston and Port Royal. And so she says she supports the Save Our Shrimpers Act, which is the bare minimum, which is a huge theme in Nancy Mace's legislative policy. She likes to do the bare minimum, and then she advocates it as this grand achievement. So what I want to do is I want to address the fact that this shrimp is coming from Vietnam, India, and China. The LESS Act that's already in Congress that she's absent on would address the fact that the FDA is not inspecting this shrimp. Would direct duties that are collected to make the FDA enforce the laws that are currently on the books. Go ahead, Ann.
I was talking to someone in the fishing. They have this law now that if you're going out to commercial fishing, you had to have someone from the DEA on your boat, to monitor you. That inhibits your ability to fish because you have to wait for someone to show up, whether or not they do show up, whether or not you can or can't go out. That, to me, that's a way to kill the industry completely, is it?
That absolutely is a way to kill the industry, and I believe that's come more from NOAA. And but we've got to get our regulatory environment to quit working against our shrimping industry, and because right now they're working against our local fishing and shrimping industry, and they're working really for the foreign imported fishing industry. And as And the reason why I've taken such a big to our shrimping industry is because, I look as a conservative, I look and see, what did the founding fathers form our federal government for? And what can we do in the framework of the Constitution? And they thought that our Constitution and our federal government should set up our commerce and our production and trade for success in the international trade, our production to be successful. And unfortunately, right now, we've got laws and we've got practices in place that are setting international fish farms and shrimping up to succeed in our country. We've got to stop this imported shrimp from coming here. Nancy Mace does the bare minimum and stops the U.S. Treasury and tax dollars from funding these international fish farms. Okay, that's great, but that's the bare minimum. Let's set up an environment where our fishing and our shrimping industries have the ability to grow, and we're not being flooded by this imported shrimp that has brought our price down by 40% just in the last 12 months. It's filled our cold storage facilities so that our shrimpers had to shut down because our cold storage facilities are filled with imported shrimp. I mean, that's a huge deal. And so we've got to stop that because right now we're into a very busy, a very successful shrimping season. And a lot of our shrimpers have had to slow down or just stop because there's nowhere to offload it.
Yeah. I mean, I go right down the street and I'll go to the local guy, set up on the corner, buy a pound of shrimp for only $5, and you're paying $20 in the grocery store or something. It is a wonderful industry and I want to see it being protected. But one of the things you talked about was drilling. And here's another pet project of mine, because I'll give you an example. In the Gulf of Mexico, when they brought back drilling, there was no red snapper. Once they put the drill rigs in there, the drill rigs became
Lost you, Annie. Bill, are you still there?
Yeah, it's freezing up on me.
Still here.
You're in and
Did you hear the question, Bill? I don't know. It's going wacky.
No, I heard drilling and red snapper, and then it kept going. It froze up on me.
All right, I'm hoping it doesn't freeze up again. It's getting mad at me, I think. But the Gulf of Mexico, when they brought in drilling into the Gulf, there was no red snapper. That had completely died out. When they brought the rigs in over the years, the red snapper is now teeming in the Gulf of Mexico. Why can't we do that off our coast, drilling off our coast? You're going off the shelf, so you're not going to be, within a line of sight of people bathing on the beach. You create a natural reef to increase the fishing industry. Plus, you have a platform for migrating birds on there. You then create a whole industry because now the
Froze up again, Annie.
Yeah.
So this is your first foray into politics, right?
That's right. This is our first run, and it's been fun. It's been exciting.
I think we lost everyone here, Ted. It looks like,
back.
Yeah, I think we're having an internet problem. It looks like my internet, I'm looking at the signals going up and down. So what we're going to do is, Bill, we're going to end the show with that. And I apologize. I wanted to go a few minutes more, but I'm going to have to do a little editing on this.
Bill, best of luck to you. Run
Ted,
hard.
Ted, thank you for joining us.
Yes, ma'am. I was just going to say, Bill, run hard. Know why you're running. Don't let anybody sway you. And you're a Marine. I expect you to do what Marines do.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And we're working hard to get to a runoff because that's how we think there's a chance for that.
Okay. Bill Young for Congress.org. Well, thank you, Ted, for joining us. And thank you, Bill. You both have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Goodbye. All right. I apologize for all the technical difficulties we're having here, but I'm looking at my signal here and it's giving me a hard time. And it's telling me to shut up and go home. So with that, I will end the show. We will be back next week and C.S. Bennett will be with us. And next week is the 14th. We have Mark Tapscott joining us from the Epoch Times or Epic Times, and Leighton Gray. He has the podcast Gray Matter. So we're going to have a great show next week with CS back with us. So with that, I say good night and God bless.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their eyes. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost.